away from the mic. All right? Are we good? No? Are we good now? Can you hear me now? All right. I want to say hello and welcome everybody to the Buffalo Corner.
In progress.
You are being recorded. If anybody has a problem with it, you can duck under the chairs. I'm glad to welcome so many are here and also on the Zoom. I wish to thank Congregation Shir Shalom, Executive Director Joanne Marquesi, and of course Rabbi Alex for supporting our Poetic Corner. I also want to thank my husband Daniel. As you saw now, like, no, you can't start yet because we have to do blee blee and blah. I mean, it means nothing to me, so I'm very appreciative, or this thing would not be happening the way it is. I am about as tech savvy as a dinosaur. I also wish to thank a young friend here, Ayla. She chose to come here with us tonight, and she inspires me, so thank you. Last week, I wanted to mention this. Last week, something happened. I was invited to become an editor for this online published, also print copy thing called Consequence Forum. And I don't have time for it, of course, but also it's the first time in my life that I have been asked to become an editor for something that's real. And it's all their stuff is about, it's all anti-war. So they started it. There was a Vietnam vet came home and felt that he could not get any of his poems published anywhere. So he started this Consequence Forum. And so if you'd look it up and you know, be part of it, that would be wonderful. If I'm still there after 1 month of submitting my stuff, we will find out. But it's still a worthwhile place. And they published, so thanks. They published one of the poems I'm going to read tonight. That's how I got hired, I guess, and we'll see what happens. And now I would like to invite Rabbi Alex to please say something about war and peace. We need to hear it. You're ahead of me.
Thank you, Gunilla, and welcome to our Zoomers and to everyone here. We were discussing beforehand, this is the very first Buffalo Corner series where we've been able to get a suntan while we're listening, because we put in new windows this past summer, and it's been too dark here at Buffalo Corner, so now we can see it. And look how it's very poetic. Look how beautiful. Those are on the Zoom screen you can't see. I'll point it out to you though so you can look. So you can see the beautiful colors, the clouds. I love during services here noticing the stars and the reflection, and it's very spiritual. It's amazing what a window can do. Tonight is very special for me because Perry, Irene, and Gunilla and I were in a writing group at the beginning of the pandemic for several years, I think. And it was a wonderful group on Zoom, of course. And it was really a special part of that, but it also reminds me that today is really the 5-year anniversary of the shutdown, when everything really, really shut down, fully shut down. And it was a scary time. It was a time where we needed kind of poetry, a traumatic time that will be in our DNA for many, many years to come. So I wanted to bring my first poem that I wrote during the pandemic, I wrote it walking my dogs. These are my dogs here, Nava and Akiva. Nava, who's our naughty one, that's the one with the one with the leash here that goes around her mouth. Yeah, Ayla knows her. She's a boxer mix and very loving, but also fierce. We had no idea what we were getting into, but we love her to death too. So remember at the early time of the pandemic, we had no idea. We thought it would just be a few months, maybe weeks. When we decided to shut down, we thought, okay, thank God we're in the time where the weather's getting nicer. We'll walk our dogs and it'll be over. We had no idea several years would pass and it still wasn't over. So this is a kind of about those first interactions when we were so afraid of one another. Talk about war. It was a battle. I've never been more scared in my life, and I've been in war zones. Like I've lived in Israel with bombing attacks. And I've never been so scared than going to Wegmans at the beginning of the pandemic. My heart would race. I'd come home, I'd get off all my clothing, go take a shower, try to get in and out of the shopping. It was a battle. It was crazy times. This is called return to normal. And I think maybe it's a prayer for that they would be over, I guess. Remember this time when you looked at me with premonition. Like two army brigades, we stood on opposite sides of the street, you with your dog, I with mine. We looked stony-eyed at one another. What store of weapons were you carrying? We nodded in mild acquiescence, and then marched quietly back to our own houses, scrubbing away any hint of our interaction. Remember this time, and do not be dismayed, for battles of this kind are beyond our comprehension. We are neighbors in the truest sense of the word, allied in our mutual cohabitation of this ever-tilting earth that one day will have us holding one another in celebration of all that we endured in those uncertain days. It's very, very hard to go back even. So with that in mind, I'll pass it back to Gunilla, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I could read one more. I don't want to take away from the next part. Okay, I have one new one as well, so I'll do that. Since Gunilla pushed me, okay. This is about more the political energy and how hard it is. This is about kind of the political energy, how hard it is to step across boundaries. I was listening to a minister on Saturday night who said it's like an invisible fence for dogs. The way that it's brilliant. How and she said that for her dogs, we never had an invisible fence, that she has to, in order for them to go away, like to go to the vet, she has to have a special word, release. And it feels like we all need to be released from these invisible fences. It was such a beautiful metaphor. This is called splitting difference. Only by straddling one foot over another, sliding over the divide, can one fully see each side independent, uniquely flawed and alive. Hop over any fence, you lose perspective, fermenting the dislike. One heart beating over another, letting enmity build deep inside, until no longer noticing all that is good and right, just over on the other side. And now I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Rabbi, for reminding us. I remember exactly. It was my older daughter's birthday, March 14, and we had the whole Ponticos family for lunch at Creekview, and we had a fantastic long lunch, and we came home, and after that, nobody left the house for like, I don't know how long. So yes, I do have a pair of glasses somewhere. Now it is my pleasure to invite Irene Sipos who was co-host here at the Buffalo Corner for over a year, I believe. She earned her MA from the English department at SUNY University at Buffalo. She retired from Buffalo State University, where she taught English and composition for 30 years and was a co-founder of the Buffalo State Rooftop Poetry Club. She was a board member of the Anne Frank Project. And if anybody here is not familiar with the Anne Frank Project, I suggest you check it out. It's still ongoing, right? Yeah, it's wonderful. And in 2010, she was the recipient of the Muriel A. Howard Award for the promotion of equity and campus diversity. Her work has appeared in national and local publications and anthologies, including Lilith Magazine, Earth's Daughters. They still haven't published me, you know what I mean? I'm just sorry, I had to say that. The Comstock Review and the New Croton Review. Irene is the author of a collection of poems, Stones, beautiful collection, by the way, and her new collection, which I didn't know about, called Connections, will be out later this spring. Fabulous. Please welcome Irene Cypress.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me? I had a little trouble hearing you, Gunilla. Okay, so yeah, the rabbi reminded me, I thought I had a poem in this book, Stones, but I guess it's not in here. And it was called I Like You. When the pandemic first began, I bought a pin at Clayton's toy store from Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers always said, I like you just as you are. Do you remember that? And I bought it, and I thought it would be so nice to walk around the neighborhood with a pin, seeing people in the neighborhood that said, I like you. And then the pandemic started, and I was 6 feet away from everybody, so nobody saw the pin. I'll start with a silly poem, Buying Beer. The cashier asked Dave for proof today when he was buying a 6-pack of IPA. He showed his driver's license, birth date 1943. It's fake ID, he said. She didn't smile at the joke. Amazing, I thought. We could be 4 times older than this young woman who asked for proof because it's the law. If I asked her age, it would be rude. But I couldn't help myself. Are you 20? I asked, as she was bagging our vegetables and pasta sauce. I'm 16, she replied. I felt proud of her, a high school student working part-time on a Saturday morning. I wondered as we walked through the rain to the car if she felt comfortable talking to us, as though we were her grandparents who might live around the corner. Or was it like speaking to Pluto, the farthest planet in the night sky? My glasses are new. I can't decide if I'm better with them or not with them. These next few poems, they're from that book. They're not current, but they do speak to the situation that we're all in right now. They speak to the problems of inclusion and that we're not enjoying. The first one is called Different. When you were 8 and you lived on a big black rock alone, and a door opened and your father fell down the cellar stairs, and the nuns scolded with their fingers flying in your face, and ghosts slept under your covers, and your mother was confounded by what you couldn't do and what she had to do, and you knelt on the wooden floor and shivered, and your heart beat loudly, so loudly the neighbors heard it booming, heard the reverberation through the window panes, but they couldn't listen, they had to leave for work, and you wanted to close your eyes, you couldn't sleep, you had to keep your vigil. thought this would be easy, but I can't find the next poem. International student. You sit next to me in the writing center and apologize for your English. I do not know one word of your language, not even one letter of the alphabet. But you worry about those frustrating articles, and, the, sometimes necessary and other times not. The rules seem illogical. You have spent many hours preparing this first draft. As we work together, I'm thinking of the warm country you have traveled from. I'm thinking of the family you must be missing, the flavors, sounds, customs you have exchanged to test yourself alone on this campus, thousands of miles from home. You have questions for me about syntax and structure, which I try to answer. I have questions for you which do not fit in our 30-minute session about determination and heart. We worry about our students. And this, what did we know? This is from election 2016. I feel like I'm speaking one way in the books another way. Is it weird? Okay. Maybe raise this. I don't know if I can raise this. I'll hold the book. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. Election 2016. 1. Maple leaves flutter gold, pin oak leaves shimmer red, sun shines brightly. Becca exclaims that the air has turned iridescent pink. At the corner, we greet our friend and her daughter walking on their way to vote at the Unitarian Church. They wear borrowed pantsuits, too big, floppy. At first we don't get it, then we laugh. We also voted with confidence this morning for our first woman president. We hug and wish each other well. By nightfall, our optimism is slipping. Through the evening, we worry more. We wait anxiously for the final count at 3 a.m. Next morning, we startle awake from the nightmare that has just begun. 2. I lit 3 candles in glass jars inviting fire. The past is never dead, said Faulkner. It's not even past. We carry the weight and we repeat mistakes. As a poster held high at the Women's March in Washington read, my arms are tired from holding this sign since the 70s. Sea salt and ginger, frosted snow, balsam and cedar. I like diversity even in candles, whose gentle glow brings a memory of the small fireplace in our carriage house, 1977, which was framed by a mysterious fresco. Vines dripped from the ceiling, owls and snakes peered out from brown and tangled branches. The artist, we were told, had studied in Florence. No heat or electricity, the blaze from this fire warmed us through the famous blizzard. We concocted cowboy chili on the hearth where we later curled up in sleeping bags dreaming as wind howled and embers crackled of the progress we believed to be unfolding in our time, finally toward social equality and peaceful compassion. 40 years ago, dear marchers, what did we know? And now we ask that again after the next election, which we never expected to turn out the way it did. Lady Bird Lake. Lady Bird Lake is a lake that is a river in Austin, Texas, that reminds me of the girl who is a boy, the boy who is a girl, or the young person who feels old, or the old person who feels young, which reminds me that often there is more to the story than a simple name, and we might do well to listen to the whole narrative if we want to understand, for instance, the lake that is a river whose destiny reaches the sea. Inbox. I click off the emails. Moms for gun safety. Everytown, USA. Team Brady. More like these asking for donations to end gun violence against children. $5, $10, $30, $100. Do we trust these sources? How can we not afford to pledge? What kind of person are we to delete this message? What kind of world needs to ask these questions? So, a couple winter poems, because it still feels like winter, even though it's the first day of spring. February Ice. It's another dog poem. He looks at me beseechingly, tail wagging. A walk, please? But outside the door, a solid sheet of ice is waiting to kill me. Later, I say, maybe it will melt, at least a little. Wind bashes the dancing statue in our garden to the ground. I hear the mailman go to greet him, sympathize with challenges of unshoveled sidewalks, wish him well, and turn to the volume of poetry I've been perusing all day. I read a poem about giving a newborn his first bath. I marvel at its cadence and flawless lines. Next, I read aloud about a man enjoying fish tacos and a beer overlooking a Floridian bay. My phone lights up with a warning, more snow and ice on the way. At 4:30 p.m., I turn on outside lights that decorate the evergreen near the door, and I regret that I hadn't written that particular poem, the one about the baby. What isn't happening? Or... Oh, okay. Okay. Winter Dreams. A friend texts, I am standing in front of the Empire State Building. Oh.
Yeah, they can see it. We just can't Sorry, they can't see that. No, they can see us.
Okay. Am I doing something I shouldn't?
You're not doing it.
Okay. Okay. Winter Dreams. A friend texts, I am standing in front of the Empire State Building. Fat flakes are falling. How I wish I were there to see the loveliness of snow that hushes and slows Manhattan. As a kid in dark January, I would play Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 1 on the record player in my room. A huge orange moon in a blue-black night sky on the album cover. It's snowing here as I play the first movement, imagining wreaths of smoke rising from tall Russian chimneys and icy wind howling down streets and alleys. Carriages crunch to a halt before the Moscow Conservatory. Ladies and gentlemen, arm in arm, cloaked and furred, top-hatted and gloved, enter the splendid Great Hall. Musicians take their places, nod to one another, raise instruments, start to perform the premiere composition of a 20-year-old genius. From 5th Avenue and 34th to West Ferry and Buffalo, winter dreams drift and sweep across our frosted state. Recently, I was invited to a lovely afternoon tea party. A poet, a local poet, her name is Trudy, and it was just such a delight. Who does that? Tuesday tea party. And actually, I wrote this as a little thank you note to her. In these wicked times, if you receive a handwritten invitation to an afternoon tea party, if the invitation begins dear and ends love, if the card is a drawing of tender blue-green leaves painted by a Holocaust survivor, if when you arrive the table is set with delicate teacups, yellow tulips, tiny sandwiches, little sweets, if you are served small bowls of fresh spring pea soup, if the friends around the table are remarkable, each in her way, if the hostess is a woman of courage, spirit, and kindness, if you are celebrating an event of her day, you will forget despair of the world for a time. You will remember to be glad you were born. We need those moments of respite, of beauty and friendship and poetry and congregation. I just have a few more. Inheritance. Not too many families regress, I think, as I polish the silver golf tournament awards won by my paternal grandmother in 1908. And the napkin rings engraved with family initials that held the linens at every night's dining table. Gertrude cultivated renowned beds of pansies, allowing bees to rest on her slender hands as she dug in garden soil. She stitched quilts as decorative objects featured in the Ladies' Home Journal. She was unfamiliar with the kitchen in her large Victorian home. All of this I've been told because she died during World War II before I was born. I let the polish dry as instructed, then gently wipe away tarnish with a soft cloth. It gleams now, pleased with itself. On to the Russian candlesticks, the Kiddush cup, the delicate spice tower from my mother's family that I keep atop a bookshelf in my small apartment. The chore of polishing silver is meditative and slow. Folding the cloth so as to find areas not yet used, I reflect on the formality of my father's upbringing, the ocean journey of maternal great-grandparents, the passage of generations, of geographic and time travels, of inheritance, the doing and undoing, of acquisition, of legacies and fortunes. This poem, it's entitled For Sarah, and it was for our dear friend Sarah Blackman, who read here a couple years ago. I had invited her to read, and she passed away in January. And we all miss her very much. For Sarah, dear friends, she passed away 20 minutes ago. She left us all at 5 o'clock this evening. We read the message from the one driving home from the hospital. A sliver of a moon and only one distinctively bright star, still brilliant, clear. Oh, of course, we say together through our text and email voices. We are not surprised. This is as it should be. Thank you for aligning us, celestial spheres. Shine on, friend of ours, poetry queen of the evening. Good night, dear one. Good night. Okay, second last. At breakfast. Over dark brewed, pajamaed, not yet showered, he tells me about a movie. I tell him about a dream. He describes plot twists and character motivation. I describe lost persons and strange places. He recounts storyline weakness. I recount angst of lost information and missed deadlines. Why watch the movie if you're annoyed by discontinuity, I ask. It was only a dream, he says, just a dream. Why let it bother you? All night we lay side by side in different lands of complicated narratives and compelling actors. At breakfast, we try to get into each other's head, share some coffee, cross the river of sleep that brings night to day, moon to sun. We pull our chairs side by side and together play games in the New York Times, Wordle, The Mini, and a puzzle called Connections. That's the name of the book. Last poem. I bet a lot of you do that also. Do you play those games? Questions. We can't deny that the internet is a useful tool, revealing dates, countries of origin, ships boarded, ports of entry. But if you are among the last in your family, no one left to question, you may never know why the profession of pharmacist was chosen, why the young woman with the beautiful voice stopped singing, who wrote the letter of introduction presented at the 1901 exposition in Buffalo. Some queries were posed long ago, some answers forgotten, others not raised in the rush of passing days. Even our cleverest technology can't go where secrets live, so we do what we must. We wrap ourselves in a great overcoat of mystery, bury our hands in its woolen pockets, intriguing and deep. And I just saw I have another silly poem. Since I started with beer, I'll end with peas. The problem with peas. Place desired amount of peas in saucepan with 1/2 cup water. Cover, bring to a boil, reduce heat, cook until tender. I cook all sorts of crazy stuff without a recipe, but when it comes to frozen peas, I need to read the instructions carefully. In America, peas are last minute, serviceable, plain on the plate next to Thursday meatloaf. You can count on the sameness of peas. Tonight I grab a bag of peas from the freezer, throw them in a hot pan, saute with plenty of pepper, lemon, butter, onion, thyme, until they sizzle and sputter. Power to peas, speak truth to peas, free peas, have a big pea party, give peas a chance.
Thank you, Irene. I wanted to know that I made a Swedish-style beef stew for the family before we left to come here, and I threw in a can of peas, hoping for peace, just like you said. Well, there's a children's book, No Peas for Nellie. We ate it. I was going to say we read it for years with my 2 daughters. I'm sorry to hear that one more of our wonderful people who have come to the Buffalo Corner and read here. I didn't know that she had passed, and it made me think that we started this because Cantor Susan Whaley, of blessed memory, died in the crash of Flight 3407. And it was Rabbi's idea. He says it was my idea, but whatever. Whoever, it was her idea that we should have a poetry reading in her honor. And I know those days I wrote a lot of poems about what I was feeling. And hearing Irene now, I'm thinking, I don't know how to say this, but what I'm feeling is that the shortest distance of most journeys is the one that takes the longest time. And that poets are people who track that time or write it down. Like most people just go through it and don't think about it. But this is what I felt when you were reading. And I'm glad in Susan's honor we are still here, pandemic or no pandemic. And now it's my honor to welcome Professor Emeritus of English, Perry S. Nicholas, who has 3 full-length and 7 chapbooks, 2 CDs, a poetry textbook, which he promised to give or sell to me, but I haven't seen it yet. And that was 10 years ago. And currently he's working on a new book. Good. 4-time Pushcart and 1-time Best of Net nominee. He hosted and co-hosted 6 venues over the last 20 years in Western New York. He has read his poetry in Western New York, Woodstock, Kingston, Albany, Poughkeepsie, New Paltz, New York City, Plymouth, and Athens, Greece. Because he is of Greek background. Both your parents were Greek, right? Yes. Yeah. He was interviewed for the Hellenic American Project at Queens College, wrote 5 articles for the Buffalo News during the pandemic. His proudest accomplishment, his daughter Gianna, who I believe is still with us here, who works at the University of Tampa, her husband Aaron, and 2 grandchildren, Ronan and Molly. Please welcome Perry.
Thank you so much. Irene is a tough act to follow, for sure. What a wonderful poet. Wonderful poet. Yeah. This first poem is inspired by Van Gogh's final painting, Wheat Field with Crows, or that's what they say his final painting what he was working on when he died. Van Gogh after the pandemic. A colorist I am not, even though my methods have changed, landscape shifted a touch beyond these faded images. I leaf through old photographs, ones depicting us as sowers, king and queen of the wheat field, making love, jealous, every stroke in between. I'm not a colorist, but my hues have brightened some. More yellows, more effort to capture space between your eyelashes. Ask questions we never dared answer. Simplify. Fill in all our pencil lines. I've lived alone so long inside blacks and whites. There is no choice but to bandage wounds, pursue color in a flurry, create thicker, longer brushstrokes of apology. I'm nothing greater than my last self-portrait. I wonder if he might have added more crows. I wonder if this is my last attempt, too. You, the unabashed auctioneer, and this, my humble, colorless offering. Thank you to Ganella and Daniel and Joanne, I see working back there, and Irene, of course. It's always wonderful to read with Irene. And thank you to all these really nice people that came from out of town, all these wonderful poets. And of course, my perfect daughter. So this one, a little lighter, since that's the way Irene went. If you're hosting a venue, you always hear the question, do I have any time left? Can I read one more? And you also have the person who said, I want to read one more, and it turns out to be 15 pages long. Always happens as a host. So I wrote this just kind of thinking about that situation. The poetry scene. Do we have time for 1 or 2 more? I've waited so long through all the others. I don't really care. Would be out the door, except I need to read one for my mother. My poem's the best, the rest are not smart, of any concern to my craft, my friends. It's not about you, it's not about art. I write to find out whose ear I can bend. The one I just wrote on my way over here is 10 pages long and will change the world. It will touch your heart and conjure a tear, and may even help me impress some girl. Sit back and listen. I'm sure you'll agree. It's all about me, 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 and me. Sorry. And you know, they know how much time they have. I just want you to know that. They always know. Most of them are teachers, and they know how much time it takes. This one, I'm sorry? Your time's up. That's it? Okay. Ring the gong. This one is for my granddaughter, Molly, and it is a direct address to the moon, and it is a moon month for sure. And this is just a couple of Greek words, and Engoni is granddaughter, and Koritsaki is girl. One more moon. I used to think you would always rise like a newly awakened spirit from a lamp whenever I felt even a tiny bit of need, romance, or regret. But you no longer respond to my will, laugh at my struggle to turn the decade. A Koritsaki, willing to share her love freely. If I could last a while longer, to hold my Engoni in the crook of an arm, whisper in her ear all the secrets of the sky, this might be enough to explain who I was and what the moon may now mean. How stellar she is, and how hard she works to remember me. These poems are actually new. By new, they are not in any of my books, but they're starting to be published in different anthologies and online journals. So I thought I would read a couple of those. And this one is really about the most humiliating experience I can think of, which is being in a hospital bed. Never enough. And the epigraph, I should say, is Sandra Cisneros. You can never have enough sky. Never enough. You can never know the importance of the sky or lack of it until you spend at least a weekend in a hospital room. A bed so far from the window, a crazy person, your neighbor in the next stall, all your privates hanging out. No matter how many times you ring the red bell, you never breathe real air, see past the plastic curtain of pain, get closer to the true color of the atmosphere. These days, I'm pretty sure people pass by my home, make fun of the old man sitting outside at all times of the day, fall or winter, book on lap, next to a heater and a dog. A dog who uses 2 senses best. A dog more focused than all of them. One who understands the slightest nod. One who pushes me to think outside the box. So, go sit outdoors. Move out of the divided space in your head. Breathe deep at any time of day or night. Write a poem about everything you can't see. And tonight, however you need to label it, God, the life force, or the mati, give thanks. Prosihi semon urano. Pray to a purple sky. Let's go to Greece for a while. The epigraph of this is from My Funny Valentine. You have to excuse my singing. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak? when you open it to speak. Are you smart? Past lives. When you brushed my arm in the street, I knew we had met in past lives. Lives of light and dark, of two alternating languages. Now I reach across the table to confirm it is you and true. Are you the one who brushed me, Agapi? Does our island life matter anymore? I don't know if I believe in myths, but I see in your eyes there was so much we shared in both languages, both worlds. I don't know which to use or visit. Nomizo oti agapisa apomia proigumeni zoi mechritora. I think I loved you from a past life up to now. All right. Talk amongst yourselves. This poem appeared in the Chronogram Journal and from the Hudson Valley, and I know there's some Hudson poets up here. And it was inspired by a poet named Ken Holland. And it's really just kind of strange poem about the last letter you ever write to anyone when you sit down to do it. The letter. The last letter, not of the alphabet, but the letter you need to write. You know the one, to your families, friend, exes, and etceteras. Before you bow out, exit the stage, bite the bullet or dirt, buy the farm, kick the bucket, give up the ghost, join the choir eternal. You know, check out, isn't dead as a doornail. Compose, then send it before you change your mind, before Haran turns back the ferry for non-payment, before you find yourself lying about its contents like Betty Davis in the movie of the same name that reveals the truth about why she killed her lover. Once you begin your letter, there's no stopping. And really, who knows when you might sign off? You'll not be around to endure any inquiries from those who, why you chose to hold off so long, circle several long city blocks before you finally found the nerve to mail it. There's a, boy, it's awful quiet in here. I hope that's it. I guess you can't laugh or clap in temple too loud. It's okay. This one is, I just chose, I'm going to go to old ones now. And this one I chose because, if you don't mind my sharing, Irene told me that somebody showed up with it in her writing group. And I think Catherine is in that writing group too, which I was really flattered. I know how they came up with that. I do not know this old poem. Greeks have a word for it. Greeks have the perfect word, savura, or anchor, to describe the way some people try to wrap their problems around you, pull you down into the eddies of their insecurities. They can't seem to stay afloat, so they entice you overboard with their guilt. Today, I feel bogged down by people. No one in this coffee shop notices, though I'm sure it's written all over my face. Hiding behind the lip of this too hot coffee, my eyes mist, pencil pushing away the burdens. Liquids can be heavier than solids. I learned about it in Mrs. Stewart's second grade class. I remember the concept from when I was a slouching boy, alone in the back of her science class, playing with Greek prefixes out of boredom, never really aware a word might encompass both the object on a boat and the tug of human troubles. Liquids assume the shape of their containers. But even if you only want to float along unnoticed, water can squeeze you so tight the pressure makes your ears pop. So you can tell me what that one's all about. A couple of old ones from my very first book, The River Review. This is a poem that is kind of imitates, I guess, Robert Creeley's poem, Inside My Head. Inside your face in love's divide, the conflict's clear as a chasm wide. You shelter truth, but half you hide in the shorn world we can't ignore. Inside your face, road to your core, a complex map for thoughts you store. Today I wander in your ark, like a homeless one who paws the park, covers his own face with the dark. I watch in awe how quick you bend, the look you try to force then send. Behind your face, which phase shines through? This night for me? Which moon is you? A really old poem that I wrote with my daughter in mind, but really I wrote it after I read an article about how we are now able to replicate or create hearts in rats. We can actually make hearts now. So just think of the possibilities in the next generation. So, and it's true. It's called The News. They shaved down a rat, robbed cells from the weak to create an organ for the greater good. That's all right as long as the result is to ease someone's pain, I figure. Too complex a thought tonight, though I fumble with my own news and how to put it in layman's terms. I drive to meet my daughter, now a young woman, for an infrequent meal. It's one of my recent futile attempts to draw her close. I worry about what face she will wear, what shadows it will cast as I try to explain. At dinner, with a candle separating us, she reminds me of her mother when she eats. Odd, I didn't see that when she was little. She with her half smile on one side, me with my half heart on the other. I want to scream across the table, tell her it's okay, not to worry, she will be fine. Fuck the doctors with their infinite ironies. They can just grow me a new one. Or maybe I joke until I pull a child's laugh out of her. I can ask to come back a different animal. Two more. Do I have enough time? And they're only one page each. No, actually, one's that long. I recently had a birthday, as my daughter did a couple of days ago. And so I always try to write a birthday poem, and it was difficult this year, so I went back to the very first one that I ever wrote. And this poem I like, I guess, because it travels from the west side of Buffalo to Lenta, the southernmost point of Crete, where you could see Africa. Birthday. As these thoughts settle on the city pool's edge, our legs dangle over. The cold water threatens to crawl up our cut-off shorts. My heart shivers all over like when we were smooth-skinned boys, shaking ourselves dry after an afternoon swim together. Through the fence, we inhaled the smell of vinegar on the fries outside the pool on Reese Street, long before we ever suspected how we would crave girls and acceptance instead. As the years passed, you went on your journey. I stayed in search of women, money, a lifetime of questions locked inside the fence. Those two boys are long gone, having run wildly home from the pool to avoid punishment for missing an event no one can remember. On this birthday in March, friend, they have returned to the scene to taunt this man, heart cracked in two, one chamber weaker than the other, who waves its silhouettes across the Atlantic, struggles to recall these disjointed scenes. Now the Reese Street pool has been closed for many seasons. I swim alone in the ocean with leathery skin. Time has passed on, taking all but a few distant relatives. And out of nowhere, a card arrives with Chronia Pola, or many years, scrawled across the front in Greek. From it drops a worn photograph of a too thin young man waiting on the southernmost point of Crete, gazing across a large pool called the Mediterranean, straining for a glimpse of Africa. I think there's one more here somewhere. The first poem that I ever published, and an interesting story, two quick things about it. One, I actually wrote it for my daughter. She was attending a Bison game, and I was standing across the street on Main Street leaning against the lamppost waiting for her. So that's the love involved here. Everybody thinks this is this love poem, and it is in a way. The other thing was, I just wanted to say, is when I first went to my first writing conference, I took this poem, and it was probably 2 pages long. And the very famous poet who was running it said, "This is what's salvageable." And he left me with this little short poem. And I thought about it, and I said, you know, he was right. Stars that cover you. I am alone on a downtown street tonight, content with my small serving of earth, no connection, no regrets, here on the corner, making time with the lamppost, staking out a tiny bed of light. I have squatter's rights over this square of solitude. My task, to scan the horizon for any telling pattern in the placement of the stars, the same stars that cover you in the next world over. Thank you for having me. Oh, that's yours. Get rid of all this stuff. I think I left yours, right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Irene. I wish I had been an international student in your class. I never met anybody who cared one little bit about my language, or every time I went somewhere, people would say, oh, they would start talking about cuckoo clocks, chocolate, and things, mountains. And I'm like, no, Stockholm. And they would be totally confused. Anyways, it was nice to hear, and thank you, Perry, for writing about people with 2 languages. Oh, yeah? She's there?
Behind your shadow.
Oh, excuse me. Wonderful. And yeah, having grandkids is also wonderful. It's a little new to me. So I will wrap up now. We have 2 more Buffalo Corners coming up, April and May. And because of Gary Earl Ross's schedule, we have scheduled the annual Mystery Month in April. And we will have the open poetry reading. You are all welcome in May. And I will send out the dates. I actually didn't write them down, so I can't. But it's the 3rd Thursday of every month. And yeah, Gary had a conference in Florida. And then I was like, well, we always had the Open Poetry Month in April because it's National Poetry Month. It was actually Perry's idea. And it's been part of the Buffalo Corner ever since. And then I thought, well, now the way things are going, will we even have a National Poetry Month? Will we actually have anything? So we just have to keep writing. And, you know what I mean. So this publication I didn't know about just came out, and I thought that I love the cover, and it includes a poem of mine, and it's like two poems about a colander. And those of you who know a little bit about my writing, I'm always very happy when I can put a very unpoetic object into a poem. And so the colander seemed to me on this day one such object. And I started writing it basically because I have a Monday night Zoom group and I have to bring a poem every Monday night. And I was like, what am I going to talk about? And I was very happy with this poem because it solved a problem I had, a deep and fundamental family problem. Daniel's mother, her mother died in Auschwitz, and she could be sometimes a little, not demanding, not difficult, I don't know how to describe it. But in this poem, I figured out that because she had a mother who died in the concentration camps, maybe she was right when she said she saw things differently. And it resolved something in me. So that's sort of the core of the poem. So I will read two Colander poems, if it's okay with you. Here's Colander fragment number 1. She thinks she can fool me, that old woman in the kitchen with her knives and strong hands, as if she too isn't full of holes. I know something about holes, how we plug them and drill them, open with toothpicks or flood them in a deluge worthy of Noah. I hear her mutter about her mother-in-law, who said her view out the window was better than her daughter-in-law's, even as they looked out the same window. And maybe she was right, seeing her mother died in the camps. Thunder wakes roots, and they begin to march down the street again. Rain widows the view. I hear her tell her daughter, be a Viking, sturdy like the Colander, and let the rain drain through. Daughter out there, running, blinded. Boys on bicycles, rain widows the window. Don't keep anything. Let birds beak your memory. Raindrops like holes. Colander solidly uncertain. High-blooming, pregnant daughter loves the scent of dirt, wants to inhale it. Mother and daughter go back and forth, exchanging one chair for another, like writing a word and crossing it out. Write yourself into a corner and fight yourself out. Silence of thunder, she thinks she doesn't hear. Whatever she places in me, for safekeeping, I'll store. I know that what she wants her too. All those lost people. Her work resembles mine as she wrestles with words, rinsing them at her sinking desk. writes them, trusting they will recover the whole. So that was number one, and then I kind of got a little lazy, so number two is much shorter. Or maybe it was like Perry said, it only needed to be this long. Colander fragment number 2. Be who you are. Not straight like a ruler or lined like the shopping list. Neither full nor empty like a gas tank, cup, dishwasher, bucket or bag. Or like me, stuck in a parenthesis at the end of a sentence. Think entrance, and let most drain away in a glitter of rain, not followed by a comma or the prudent stop of a period, not square like the sign at the corner of the street, the rag, or the counter of a runaway sentence like palm trees sweeping the sky clean of dust with its canopy. Light filters through the edges of leaves, mirrors our faithful need to leap from one branch to a new one. In the end, not a comma or a period. I wish for a semicolon, to start all over again. Thank you all so much. We forgot our question and answers. Does anybody have a question? We still have our authors here. If you wanted to ask anything, or anybody online. Yes, Irene.
I just wanted to say thank you to Buffalo Corner, to the rabbi, to the Custers. I forgot to say that because I was nervous when I got up here. But thank you, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you. And yeah, if there are no questions, then we can go home and get warm. Oh, you had a question? Oh. Anybody? Catherine? Nice to see you here again. All right. That's it.
Happy spring.
Oh.
Recording stopped.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
It's always the second Tuesday. It's always the second Tuesday of the month. We average about 16, so it's busy. We average about 16 members, yeah. And it always starts right at 7. Open New Year's start about 7 between 6:30 and 7. People who come late can enjoy it. But forget that I said that. So, but in the lots of